into making this episode look fantastic?
It's a big episode, and yet it's not a big sci-fi episode. I mean, it was quite expensive, but yet, you know, the cost came from things like going on location.
After fighting the wind and sand, we headed to Las Vegas.
We're at the Planet Hollywood Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada.
We were very, very fortunate to hook up with Planet Hollywood, who it was very, very cooperative and was enthusiastic about us doing pretty much everything that we really wanted to do.
The fact that it has this mezzanine level, a lot of the hotels don't have this high a ceiling in the casino, and it's one of the things that makes it so film friendly, is because you can set your lights and you have this tremendous view out over the balcony. A lot of times in casinos, the ceilings are 12-foot ceilings, so the lights are right there on top of you, and there's really nowhere to put your camera to look down on it, or just see the whole spread as you can.
You really don't have a lot of control. It's one of those situations where, you know, it's a lot of good things and a lot of bad things can happen. The good things are that you end up with a ton of production value. It looks like we had 1 million extras that day. We were only controlling the immediate traffic around the Wraith, and you know, the rest was the public. And you know, you really hope you don't get a couple of you know, goofs waving at the camera or jumping up and down or interfering with you in some way that negatively affects your shot.
Well, for me it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of people who were corralling you know, the public, trying to make sure that they didn't walk to our shot or wave at us. And, you know, hey, what you doing? You making a TV show here? It's not that complicated a sequence. We're basically just running our Wraith through the casino. This is a little music montage as he makes his way through the hotel and up to the suite where he's going to be playing the card game. But we really wanted to feature kind of the flavor of Vegas and being inside a casino, and you know, we went to all the trouble to come down here, so we wanted to actually, you know, do some stuff on the floor.
It was important to me to get shots of the Wraith walking down the Las Vegas Strip and seeing him interact with crowds. And those things kind of, to me, help to sell the slightly ridiculous scenario of having a Wraith participating in a high-stakes poker game. The poker game is made up of quite a colorful, you know, group of characters. Down at one end is Charlie Cohen, who is the executive VP of MGM. He's a huge fan of the show, and you know, is greatly responsible for the fact that we were shooting in Vegas. Next to him is Joel Goldsmith, who writes our music. He's been a composer for as long as Stargate has been on the air. And then there's 2 professional players, and then you know, we had a couple of the gentlemen, Steve Strippa and Frank Vincent, who you may recognize from The Sopranos. They were great guys, super professional. They were you know, really you know, excited to be there. And when you're writing a scene like that, and you know that you've got a couple of guys like that coming in for a cameo, you know, you're kind of torn. On the one hand, you know, you want that scene to be worthy of their talents, but on the other hand, it is just a cameo, so you know, you want that show to almost to be all about them. It's kind of funny. I had written a different scene, and I wasn't that happy with it, and heard Joe Flanagan talking about a situation in which his nanny's finger had actually been bitten off by one of her dogs. They had all been at an outdoor campfire at Joe's place, and the dogs got into a bit of a fight, and she had reached in to try and break it up, and one of the dogs actually bit the tip of her finger off. And he told that whole story, and I thought, you know, that is just too good to be true. You just can't make stuff like that up. And so I rewrote the scene and put that story. I embellished it to a certain extent, but that's the dialogue that Frank and Steve actually deliver in the show.
You got it in the fridge.
And where's the housekeeper?
It's at the hospital. She lost a ton of blood.
Really? Don't they need the finger?
Nah, it's too late to reattach it. She'll be all right.
Yeah, we've stopped there. We've cut. Good when you smile.
That's good.
The more you want to smile. Gentlemen,
Yeah, we were down in a hallway of a service hallway of a working casino hotel. So there were still staff walking through. It was one of the first things we had to do stunt-wise down in Vegas. It was a little more chaotic working down there. There's always like somebody walking in the way or something, and I just had to be more sort of on top of things. Just people that you're used to working with know your style. They know when you're rehearsing. They know when you're not. And all the shooting crew came from LA, so there was only a couple of us from Vancouver here that were actually had been on Stargate Atlantis from the beginning. When you're down there and you don't know anybody and you're like, okay, well, I want to meet, oh, hold on, who's the props guy? Somebody? I hired all the stuntmen from Los Angeles, and every one of them I had worked with before on some movie. So I knew that I was covered no matter what, but there's that variable of working with new people that is always a challenge.
I was really set on trying to do an episode that had real elements in it. In the case of the stunt, I wanted the Wraith to jump off of the casino building.
All I had to go on when we were prepping this high fall was drawings, and they weren't to scale, and photographs. I mean, it's very important when you're choosing an airbag for a high fall. You have to know how high the high fall is, because airbags are constructed specifically for certain heights. Also, I had to know what the width of the alley was that we were working in to place the airbag, because the airbag may not have fit in the alley, and it may not have been a deep enough alley to jump off the roof with.
What we have behind me right here is an airbag made for high falls. This one here is rated up to 80 feet. It's taken us, it takes about 45 minutes to get this rolled out, blown up, and ready to jump in. We've just finished, as you can see down here, just finished marking it. I've had my stunt performer, Andy Dillon, up at the top there, spotting exactly where he wants the bag, and we've shuffled it around to his specs, and basically ready to go.
What I'm hoping is that he's going to jump off and look as cool as possible. All of the cool stuff that makes action characters look good is the stunt guys, and the stunt guy's the one that's putting his life on the line to make the character and the shot look as cool as possible. So, I mean, these guys are invaluable. I'm in continual awe of what they've done. They have a completely different relationship with pain than most people, and they put their bodies on the line.
It was a pretty high jump. But I also feel very confident in James Bamford, our stunt coordinator. So at that point, I kind of say, this is the scenario I want to see happen, and I rely on his expertise and professionalism to make sure it's gonna look good, but also that it's gonna come off in a safe way.
What Andy needed to know to perform this particular high fall was what I needed from him in the air.
What Andy's about to perform is called, the style of high fall is called a face-off. So what he does is he steps off, straight off the side of the building, 1 foot off, as if he were running from the other end of the roof. He steps off and falls down face first. He'll end up flattening out and come down like this sort of trajectory, stomach first, like so. And about 10 feet from the bag, he'll spin himself, like so, and end up on his back.
We got him up on the roof, and he looked at it. We threw a couple rehearsal water bottles wrapped in towels over, so he could see the trajectory of the fall. And once he saw that, and he confirmed that the trajectory was fine for him, then he was ready to go. It was unbelievable, like unbelievably skillful. Landed perfectly, dead center, no problems, no issues. It was all hugs, and everybody was happy, and then we went on to the next scene. Safety is the key when jumping off a roof.
I always feel like, the amount of work is never really reflected in the final episode. You watch it, it's 42 minutes, and you know, people kind of like it, and then they forget about it. For the most part, it was really easy and you know, super cool as far as being able to make it look like, you know, we were in Las Vegas and on the Strip and in the casino.